Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for being here. Today we are getting a message from your shadow, or a piece of you that is hidden that would like to have your attention and has a message for you and some advice on how to integrate this message and this part of you, as well as what your higher self would say to this part. And so we have 4 different piles. Each pile I'm going to be using a different tarot deck for the main message. I will show you the crystal, I will show you the back artwork, and then I've chosen a card at random to show you as well. So I'll show you the front artwork as well. So for pile number 1, we have this labradorite stone. And we have the Flux Arcana Tarot. That is the back artwork, and your random card is the Lovers. The second pile, we have this Amethyst Heart. And your deck is the Fountain Tarot. And your random card is Temperance. Pile number 3, we have this Smoky Quartz Point, and your deck is going to be the Antique Anatomy Tarot, and your random card is the Wheel of Fortune. And finally, for pile 4, we have this Quartz Pyramid on top, and your deck is the Wandering Moon Tarot. Your random card is Strength. All right, so pause, take all the time you need, take a deep breath, connect with your intuition. You could be drawn to the crystal, you could be drawn to the back artwork, the front artwork, the particular card that came forward. Whatever draws you in most strongly, that is hopefully your pile. You could choose multiple piles for this reading. There could be multiple parts of yourself that need some attention, perhaps need healing, or just have an important message for you. So like I said, take all the time you need. Feel free to pause the video, and thank you so much for being here. Thank you for letting me read for you. I hope something in here resonates and is helpful. But I am going to go ahead and get started with pile 1. Hi pile 1, this is going to be your reading if you chose the Labradorite Stone or the Flux Arcana Tarot. And today we're just going to be getting a message from your shadow, a part of your shadow, and so this initial energy check is just to make sure that this pile resonates, and just a little introduction of this part of you that has a message for you. So if this part doesn't resonate, this may not be your pile, but perhaps there are multiple parts of you that have a message, so feel free to choose more than one, and hopefully there is a message in here for you. Before I get into the cards, I was kind of picking up on your energy a little while before I started this reading, and I was almost avoiding it. I had the feeling that it would be a heavier topic, and so I was a little hesitant to get into it. Perhaps you are aware of this part already, and you know that there is some work to be done, or this part wants to be seen more and you're not sure how to integrate it. But I got the message that the work will not be as hard as you think it will be. It will not be as heavy as you fear it might be. But I do feel like there's maybe some shame around this part, perhaps. As I was meditating on your energy before I started drawing the cards, I got that message of, oh, this is a bad part of me. This is a shameful part of me that I shouldn't address. But then immediately I was like, no, that's not true. Like, it's just a part of you, you know? And so I really think there's nothing to fear here with this part, but I do sense some avoidance on your part. So again, if that isn't really where you're at, this may or may not be your pile, but let's get an introduction to what this part actually is. So we have visual mantra, we have Scorpio with investigate and the number 8. We have the Hierophant with spirituality and knowledge. And then we have the corner ghost with come front and center with your ideas. Immediately, I'm hearing nobody puts baby in the corner, which is a Dirty Dancing reference if you're not familiar, but perhaps that is a significant movie or soundtrack. But with that, I definitely do think this part of you was shamed for quite some time, either as a child or a young adult. It could have a lot to do with your ideas, you know, your knowledge, your investigation. You could have been a very curious child, and you are a very curious person. Perhaps you did, or you ask a lot of questions, and you have a lot of interesting ideas that were maybe shot down. But you know, with this message, come front and center with your ideas. It's definitely time for this part of you to be seen. I think this part of you honestly is very psychic. You could be clairvoyant with this visual mantra here, and with the Hierophant and the 8th house energy of Scorpio, I think there may have been an environment or a relationship in your life that made you feel like you had to choose between maybe more traditional roles or religions or beliefs, and your genuine interest in the mysteries of life, and really investigating things for yourself, more taboo things and topics as well. I think this part has a hard time articulating their ideas, their thoughts, their beliefs. This visual mantra card actually talks about how sometimes our thoughts and our words get in the way of seeing something with clarity, and especially things that go deep, that are spiritual in nature. It's hard to describe those things, those feelings, those beliefs. We tend to overthink them. This part of you is very private. It's very introspective. It's very intuitive. And honestly, I feel like this part of you is unafraid of transformation. It is unafraid of change. But because you were taught that things have to be a certain way, things should stay the same, it repressed a lot of those curiosities. It made this part more private. It made it afraid of change, and it made transformation and being seen in that transformation very difficult. This part of you wants to dive deep into other people, into yourself, into the world around them, but there is a lot of fear here. This part of you is kind of afraid of this inquisitiveness. It's kind of afraid of these gifts that you have, but at the same time, it is begging to be seen. It's a part of you that wants to just experience life and all the mysteries of life. It wants to explore topics that were previously withheld from them, and it wants to ask questions and figure things out and figure itself out, but at the same time, it also wants to be okay with not knowing, with just feeling and experiencing life for what it is and all its mysteries and all its beauty. It wants to learn and grow and expand and explore, especially spiritually. It also feels like this part of you is afraid of asking for help. It's afraid of asking questions in general, but especially from people in positions of authority. This part of you feels very misunderstood. Misunderstood emotionally and also perhaps literally. I think, again, communicating could have been difficult or has been difficult. This shadow part of you, this hidden part of you, both desires and fears change. You know, we have Taurus energy here with the Hierophant, and then we have Scorpio energy, and those are sister signs. You know, they have very similar energy and they have very different energy. And there's this internal push and pull with this part of you of being very traditional, being very steadfast, perhaps even being very loyal to an idea, a belief, or a person. And then the other side of that is wanting to honor your own ideas and beliefs and trust your intuition. It's this struggle of being seen and validated by others versus being seen and validated by yourself and knowing that you have that inherent worth. This part of you is not just very curious and inquisitive. It's very deep. It's very spiritual. It's very connected. And I think that makes it hard to connect with people in general who may not feel that way, who may keep things very surface level, or who just may not understand these feelings and thoughts and beliefs. Honestly, this part of you is a little bit weird, and I mean that in the best way as a fellow weirdo. But you may have, you know, like I said at the beginning, you may have felt bad about that. You may have been shamed for it. And this part really wants to get to the bottom of things, and it wants to connect with people and life on a deeper level, but it's afraid to do that as well. It may not know how, or it may feel guilty about expanding their mind because, again, there may have been some very traditional beliefs instilled in you. But this part of you showed up for a reason, and so it has a message for you. And so now we are going to get into the tarot. You chose the Flux Arcana Tarot. Very nice. And so we will get started with that and see what message wants to come forward. Pile 1. Why did the shadow part come forward? Whoa. Okay. What message does this part have for pile 1? Get a couple more. What message does pile 1 need to hear? Oh, okay. from their shadow part. Please, one more. Okay. Whoop. All right. We've got the Sun. We've got the King of Wands, Judgment, the Three of Pentacles, and the Five of Wands. Very nice. Yeah, it definitely wants to be illuminated. I mean, especially with these first cards here, it's calling to you. It wants to be seen. It needs to be seen. It wants you to have confidence in it, and it wants you to honor that divine connection that you feel, that you know you have. It wants to be seen and accepted, and not just by others, but by you. It really wants you to acknowledge your power. I mean, these first three cards, they all talk about being very authentic, especially this Judgment card, with it also having Pluto energy, Scorpio energy, that transformational awakening energy. It's not something to be afraid of. I think this is actually a very positive and charismatic and optimistic part of you. Like I said at the beginning, I don't think it's something that you need to be afraid of. I think it can perhaps even easily be integrated into something lighter if you learn to forgive yourself and let go of any shame and guilt that you may have felt for feeling this way or hiding this part of yourself. And with these two cards here, it wants you to stand on your convictions, stay determined in your values and beliefs, and know that you bring something to the table. This part is an important part of you, and it shouldn't be kept hidden away. And I think getting deeper in touch with this part of yourself and allowing it to be seen will ultimately help you reach some of your goals. It just goes back to the fact that this part of you has a very strong connection to your intuition, and it just wants you to know that it's okay to want what you want. It wants you to know that the right people will see you, and in fact, this part could help you become a leader of sorts, or again, step into your power and be an authority on your own life. And despite any competition, any naysayers, this part wants to reassure you that you are strong enough to handle any of that. And actually, the more you trust in this part, the more you let it be seen, the more deeply you connect with it, the less these people are going to bother you. You know, the less of an impact that other people's agendas or influence will have on you. This part wants you to know that it can bring you a lot of joy and a lot of inspiration, and I think it is a part of you that can ultimately inspire others as well. And it is a part of you that is not going to let up with this Judgment card. It is a part of you that, like I said, is begging to be acknowledged. And so, as I mentioned in the very beginning, when I was kind of meditating on your energy, I was like, I feel like you might know what this part is. And I feel like you might even know that what this message is, and maybe not what you need to do with it, but you know that it needs to be acknowledged in some way. You've been hearing the call for a little while, and I think you know it's time to move on. It's time to allow yourself to transform and accept and integrate this part into your whole self, and not let it stay hidden. It's time to let the weirdo out. Because I think honestly, these beliefs, this exploration, this transformation, it brings you joy. Like I said, maybe this isn't a part of you that's necessarily hidden from yourself, but it's kept very private, and there is some shame around it. And it's really asking you to let all that go, because it does bring you joy. It does bring you creativity and inspiration, and you have a passion for it, and it's just time to let it be seen by others. It's time to stand in who you are and be more secure in this part of yourself. I think if you accept this part of yourself and are unapologetic in it, others will accept you unapologetically too. And all your weirdness and flaws and beautiful imperfections. And honestly, I feel like this part kind of likes to challenge people. You know, like I said at the very top, there is a very deep spiritual connection here. There's maybe even some psychic or clairvoyant energy, if that resonates. I think this part wants you to be unafraid of those challenges, because there will be plenty of people who want to communicate with you, who want to collaborate with you. And even, those that don't, they don't really matter, because ultimately I think integrating this part of yourself will bring you a lot of success in whatever way you are hoping for success, or the way you define success. It will get you there. There will be a lot of achievement and abundance. And again, I think that's ultimately just because this part of you really is your intuition, and it's encouraging you to follow that intuition and to not ignore those messages, not ignore any downloads that you get, any creative inspiration that you might receive. But ultimately, this part's message for you is that I think you already know. I think you already know and are aware of this part. I think you know it's being illuminated for a reason. And it just wants you to acknowledge it and integrate it and not fear your own power. It's okay to be who you are and believe in what you want to believe. There's no reason to feel guilt or shame about that. There's no reason to feel guilt or shame about your gifts and your power. It wants you to have confidence in yourself and your intuition and your skills and your knowledge, because you are a very curious person. You're a very deep person. Asking questions is not a bad thing. Asking for help is not a bad thing. But let's get a few cards to see how we can maybe integrate this part. How can pile one integrate and honor this part of themselves that wants to be seen? Whoa, perfect. All right, we have the Six of Pentacles. Oh, we have the Eight of Pentacles. And we have the King of Swords. So in order to integrate this part, there's definitely a need for grounding with these two Pentacles cards here. There's again a need to maybe ask for some help with the Six of Pentacles. That's a very reciprocal energy, a very generous energy. And I think ultimately the Six of Pentacles represents seeking harmony in this integration, seeking balance as you integrate this, because it doesn't have to be all or nothing, right? I think, again, with the example of perhaps there were ingrained beliefs in you, very traditional beliefs in you that you were raised with, maybe you keep some of those. Maybe you are grateful for some of those and they've taught you a lot, and it doesn't mean leaving those behind, but rather learning how to work with this new energy and honor that old energy that you still carry with you. And, especially with the Seven of Pentacles here, or I'm sorry, the Eight of Pentacles, that's just your willingness to learn, to be dedicated to honoring and integrating this part of yourself, and knowing that it will take time. It will take commitment to your personal and spiritual growth, commitment to this balance and harmony, even, and commitment to your ideas and beliefs. Remind yourself that it's okay to strike a balance between this very spiritual and curious nature of yours and a very grounded, realistic, logical approach, and a very grounded and realistic and logical approach to life. You need both. But I do think ultimately this integration will require you to get some help, to ask for some help. Perhaps this King of Swords and the King of Wands are representative of a person or people who can really help you embody this balance and understand what it looks like to follow your intuition and what it feels like, and how to best communicate those messages with others. And though I think this integration will take some work, I do think there's a lot of work that you've already done. Like I said earlier, I don't think this work will be as difficult as you think it might be. I think it's just working through this fear of being seen and being heard. And I think this integration and this work will require a dedication to yourself that might be uncomfortable or unfamiliar for you for a little bit. There's a security in the Eight of Pentacles. It is about learning and mastering, but it will require you to trust in yourself and be secure in yourself. And like I said, your skills and knowledge and your intuitive wisdom. In order to integrate this part, you will also have to be very, very clear and very decisive about your message. You will have to be very clear and honest with yourself. And as you learn to do that, it will help you be very clear and honest with other people. And it will help you realize that you do have the words. You can find the words to express and explain these thoughts and feelings and beliefs. And you can do so with a lot of clarity and wisdom and authority. And not only that, but I do think you will come to find that as you integrate this part of yourself, it's a lot easier. It will take practice. It might take some assistance, but it'll become a lot easier to apply these messages to your life. You will come to learn how to act on these intuitive hits, how to make decisive choices. You have to practice trusting yourself. It's easy to say, oh, trust your intuition and follow your heart and your gut and answer the call, but it's another thing to put it into practice and to act on it. And that can be very scary and challenging, but it is an important part of integrating this piece of you, because the more you do that, the more you practice following your intuition, the easier it's going to get and the clearer it's going to get as well, which will only lead to more confidence in yourself and in your intuition. But it's time to stop fearing this part of yourself. It's time to actually have gratitude for this part of yourself. It's time to do the work, and it's time to trust in the communication that you receive and the messages that you can communicate to others. There's no need to be afraid of being misunderstood, because you understand yourself, or you will, and the right people will understand you too. So now we're going to finish off with some guidance from the Cosmic Guidance Oracle deck. Just a few pieces of advice from your higher self to this shadow part of you. We have action, awaken the warrior woman within. Gonna steal that just in case. So yeah, again, now's the time to take action. You're being encouraged to act on these intuitive hits, to integrate and honor this part of yourself, and not be afraid of your own power. We have energy, intensity, passion, power. Again, that power keeps coming through. Yeah, follow your passions. Trust in the energy that you feel, that you see. You know, this lightning bolt is very, very much like an intuitive hit. It's like a flash of clarity, a flash of passion or inspiration. So your higher self is encouraging you to follow those, take action on those. Let that energy fuel you. And again, trust in your power. And one final piece of guidance, please, from Pile 1's higher self. Freedom. Spread your wings. Yeah, I think that is the ultimate final message right there. I think integrating and honoring this part of yourself will offer you a lot of freedom. I think it will liberate you. Like I said, and like you know, this part is being illuminated for a reason. It's time. It's time to transform. It's time to step into your power, honor those gifts, and set yourself free. Set yourself free from shame and guilt and fear, and trust that if you don't feel confident or secure yet, you will. It's time to let yourself be who you are. It's time to embrace the curiosity, the wisdom that you have, the weirdness that you have, because that's who you are. That's who you're meant to be in this lifetime. And I'm sorry if you were ever made to feel ashamed of your intensity, your energy, your passion, your quest for knowledge, your deep spiritual self. Nobody deserves to feel any shame for any part of themselves. It is not an easy process to let go of, but you can do it, and there will be assistance for you. Even in this freedom card, we have 2 birds here. So you're not alone in this journey. There are other people who think and feel and believe like you do. There are others who do or have struggled with trusting themselves and their intuition, who know what it's like to have a passion or curiosity and feel shame around it. But this shadow part and your higher self are encouraging you to take a leap of faith, take action. You are very powerful. And I'm thinking of that quote. I don't know who to attribute it to, but it's, at least the first part says something like, our greatest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our greatest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. And I think this is a big fear for you. You're afraid of your power, your gift. You're afraid of the clarity that comes with it sometimes, the unshakable knowing that comes with some of these intuitive messages. You don't know how you know, but you know, but you talk yourself out of it. You try to downplay it. It's time to free yourself. It's time to free this part of you and let it be seen. It's gonna take some time to be able to release yourself from the shame and the fear, but you can do it. I believe in you. Your higher self believes in you. Even this shadow part of you that you've tried to hide away, it believes in you. It believes in its power. And so it's time to trust in it. It's time to do the work. So, pile one, I think that is all the messages I have for you. That is where I'm going to leave your reading. I hope this resonated with you. I hope it was helpful. And I hope you'll leave me a like, a comment, or subscribe if you are interested. I love making these videos, so expect a lot more in the future. But as of right now, I do offer personal readings. I also offer personal coaching sessions as well. I will link my Instagram and website in the description below. Feel free to check those out. And I'm wishing you all the best wherever and whenever you are watching this. And I hope you take good care of yourself. I'll see you next time. Bye. Hi, pile two. This is going to be for you if you chose the Amethyst Heart or the Fountain Tarot deck. But first, we are going to take a look at what this shadow part is, what this hidden part that wants to come forward with a message is. So this is kind of like a little introduction to that part. So if this doesn't resonate, this might not be your pile, but you could be asking about more than one piece of you that needs to tell you something. So let's see what we have. We have regeneration. We have Ceres with nurture. We got two of these. We have the Ace of Swords with breakthrough, mental focus, and the Death card or metamorphosis with profound change and self-awareness. And then we also have the Ghost phone. Will you answer the call? Actually, I think I'm going to switch these. There we go. Okay, so interesting. So first and foremost, I want to mention that I was going to do this reading yesterday, but I was so physically exhausted, kind of out of nowhere. Like, I feel like maybe I was picking up on your energy, maybe not, but if you've been feeling exhausted, physically, mentally drained, if you have been kind of on the verge of burnout, speaking of which, one of my candles is going out. So again, maybe this is kind of your energy that I'm picking up on. Let me fix that real quick. We'll see how long that guy lasts. But anyway, your energy right now, this shadow part of you, is really asking you, one, to keep pushing forward, to keep undergoing this change, to keep holding yourself accountable to this regeneration, to this transformation. But obviously, if you are feeling exceptionally exhausted, burnt out, it is definitely asking for some nurturing as well. With this Ace of Swords and the Ghost phone, it definitely makes me think a breakthrough is coming. You're almost on the other side of this. It's really asking for focus and dedication. I think there's a shift that's happening within you. There is perhaps a new calling that you're being asked to follow. This is definitely some kind of internal shift, perhaps something from the past that is coming back up that needs to be healed, to be transmuted into something new. And even when I shuffled these cards initially, the message that kind of came through, there was a question that I heard that was like, who taught you, or where did you learn that you had to work so hard in order to be worthy? Who taught you that you had to be productive in order to be worthy of care, of nurturing? Who taught you, or where did you learn that in order to grow and change and regenerate, you had to exhaust yourself, burn yourself out, cut yourself down? You know, I'm noticing the scythe and the sword here. And this card is about harvest, but it's about, again, kind of regeneration and planting something and nurturing something, cultivating something new. While I think this part wants you to hold yourself accountable, to stay focused, to make the difficult changes, it also needs you to do that in a way that honors where you are and honors this change that you're undergoing. I feel like there's maybe a need to break free from any previous beliefs or ideas that were instilled in you about what it means to work hard and hold yourself accountable and stay focused. And in fact, some of you could be so focused on work or school or a certain project that you're not taking care of your basic needs. This card, does talk about food and health and kind of mothering yourself or others. And so this part of you really wants you to not just focus on what's outside of you. It wants you to focus on what you're feeling within you. And that includes those very basic needs of, are you eating enough? Are you drinking water? Are you getting enough rest? Like I said yesterday, I felt so physically exhausted. It was crazy. And again, maybe that was just me, but I feel like that's some of your energy too. But there is this part of you would like you to have a new self-awareness. This regeneration card also talks about learning lessons from the past, from past lives, and understanding that transformation can't happen necessarily, or it's a lot harder when we don't recognize the mistakes we made in the past during these transitions, the lessons we've learned thus far. And in a very literal sense, that's what harvesting can teach us as well, or gardening. That lesson of, what should I do differently next time? How did this crop come out this year? And what can I do to make it better this next season? And again, it's not so much about productivity as it is just about acknowledging the changes that you need to make for your own best interest, for your health, for, not just your success, but for your well-being. This part of you is a part that wants to bring you clarity, and it wants to help you bring about this change. But it needs and wants you to be honest with yourself. It needs you to have that self-awareness. If you feel called to a different path, this part of you wants you to honor that, to follow that path. It wants you to stop thinking about what others will think. It wants you to stop holding on to those limiting ideas of productivity, of what success looks like, of the scripts that you were taught to follow. There is a push within you to start something new, to grow something new, cultivate and nurture a new path. There's really this breakthrough that has come forward or is coming forward that is pushing you toward this change, and this part of you wants you to not be afraid of making that change. It wants you to not be afraid of regeneration and transformation. And in fact, the path that you're pursuing, relationships, career-wise, whatever it is you're pursuing, should be fulfilling and should be nurturing. And if that's not where you are, then it's time to be honest about that and change it and start by nurturing yourself. Yeah, I think some of you are really burnt out. I can't seem to keep these candles going. And so this one, you know what? I'm just gonna let it burn out and I'm not gonna replace it. And that's gonna be okay because we still have two tea lights here, you know? And I'm thinking of the spoons theory that I think a lot of neurodivergent in particular people have resonated with, of I have so many spoons in a day or a week, and you know, a certain activity takes a certain amount of spoons. And so if you need to let a candle burn out, if you need to drop a few spoons and just take care of what needs to be taken care of at a very basic level, then this part of you is asking you to do that. But I think you are exhausted. I think you are burnt out. I think you also really want this change. And perhaps you have been here before, whether it was a similar position, whether it was, whatever it was. I think maybe you either pushed through or you took a brief break and kind of did what you needed to and then got right back to it. And this part of you is asking you to remember that time and not go back to it, and to make a profound change and shift your perspective and honor new ideas and focus on something new. Focus on what you really need right now. And this Ceres card, it talks about, like I said, mothering yourself or mothering others, but it also has a bit of, quote unquote, tough love to it, of doing things even when they're hard. And I think in your case, that means breaking free from this pattern and breaking free from this mindset and this grind that you have been on in order to truly regenerate on not just a physical level and not even just on a mental level, but on a spiritual level. There is something that really needs your attention. There is a call, a breakthrough, a change that wants to be heard. The death card or metamorphosis is Scorpio energy, and so that is very deep, introspective energy as well. This part of you is definitely a lesson from the past that's popping up again and asking to be relearned, to really instill this change in you. This very well could be a part of you that is deeply connected to your inner child or is your inner child. This card does also talk about like the safety and protection of children. So I think this part goes back a ways, and if it's not your inner child, it could be something lingering from a past life, or like I said, just a past version of you at some point. We have an ace, number 1. We have the number 13 with metamorphosis, and then we have the number 29. So those numbers could be ages that are significant. With 29, it makes me think of the kind of average age that a Saturn return happens at. So perhaps you're in the midst of that, perhaps you're starting that soon and you're really feeling the push to transform, to find this clarity and focus and focus on, like I said, your well-being, what you need and what feels good to you, and finding a path that doesn't exhaust you, that doesn't feel forced. This part of you is a part that wants transformation to be not just a regenerative process, but a nurturing process as well. This part of you doesn't just want you to not be afraid of change. It wants you to know that you can take care of yourself throughout any change. It wants you to know that growth does not have to be painful. It does not have to be productive, honestly, at least in like a traditional productivity sense. Growth and change can be just for you and what you believe is in your highest good. But let's see now if we can dig a little deeper into this message that wants to come forward with the tarot. I'm going to rearrange these so it looks nice and pretty. But pile 2's shadow, this part that we were just introduced to, what message do you have for pile 2? Okay, we have the 2 of Wands. This card makes me think that, you know, you've got the world in your hands. I think that's a pretty literal interpretation of this card. But, you know, I think this part of you really wants you to just take a step back and gain a bigger perspective and make plans that feel good to you. Make a plan of action to help you achieve this breakthrough, to make this change. But what else does pile 2 need to know? Okay, we have a couple here. The Fool in the World. Wow, okay. What did I just say? I don't know if you can really see that or not, but just in case. Yeah, this part of you really wants you to shift your perspective, to start something new. Wow, we have another major arcana card. We have the Chariot. Okay. I love this. Let's get one more. Okay, and the 4 of Cups. Awesome. This part of you wants you to start a completely new cycle. We have 0 to 21 here. We have the full Fool's journey here. And, you know, we have that focus that kind of came through with the Ace of Swords and answering the call with the Chariot here as well. This is you learning to harness your energy and be in control and know what needs to get done and how to get it done. Like I said, this is a huge perspective shift. This is you making plans, but ultimately just taking a leap of faith into doing what needs to be done and really learning to define success and accomplishment on your own terms. And that's really what this part of you, that's really the message that they have for you. Instead of falling back into these old patterns where you might end up feeling exhausted and burnt out, you know, you're being asked to redefine what your path can look like. There's definitely some introspection, some contemplation that is needed with the 4 of Cups here. But honestly, I see this 4 of Cups as you, as you're going through this journey and making this change and embracing this new worldview. I think this is you really honoring yourself and your new perspective and your new definition of success, because, you know, sometimes this card can talk about like boredom or apathy, but in this context, it really feels like you being able to say no to opportunities and things that aren't meant for you, that don't feel aligned, and really waiting for the right thing to take action on. You know, I think that goes back to the Two of Wands here as well, of figuring out what you actually want and what you actually need. Because, like I said, this Four of Cups is very much about contemplation and introspection as well. So I think you're really trying to focus on and align with a path that allows you the time to do those things. Perhaps incorporating meditation is really important to this path, but overall, it's this energy of you learning this lesson, of learning when to take action and which direction to follow, but not allowing yourself to get burnt out, and really take time for yourself and take time to think about what you want. You know, I know this is the Four of Cups, but there is a similar energy of the Four of Swords, of rest coming through as well. And so I just think this part of you really wants you to be very thoughtful about what you need and what you want and where you're going, and what you actually want to achieve. Because like I said at the start, I think this part of you is well versed in what other people want for you or wanted for you, the scripts and the roles that you were supposed to follow for your life, the milestones that you were supposed to hit. And it's asking you, like I said, to take a step back and ask yourself if that's really going to bring you joy, it's going to bring you fulfillment, or is it just going to continue to lead to these cycles of burnout? And you know, ultimately twos are choices. And this is a conscious choice that you have to make to break free of this limiting environment or mindset and be a little bold, be a little bit more optimistic about what your life can be. Find balance in your life. You know, the Fool is self-discovery, and that's really where I think that clarity will come from. I think this is you answering the call. And then, of course, the World is you completing that cycle and finding that fulfillment and mastery and peace. You know, the World is fixed sign energy, so Scorpio, Taurus, Aquarius, and Leo energy. So any of those signs could be significant. We also have Cancer with the Chariot here as well. But I think if you are willing to take this leap of faith, if you're willing to make this choice and this change and really direct your energy where you want it to go, where you know it needs to go, this is guaranteed. And I think there will be a time in the future where you can look back and recognize how much your perspective has changed and recognize how much you've changed, you know, and then you can see that change is nothing to be afraid of, that despite what other people might think or say, you still have this sense of accomplishment. You still feel successful on your own terms, you know, because the Chariot talks about searching for that inner truth and following that inner truth and overcoming these obstacles and challenges and finding harmony. You know, we have similar energies here between this and the Two of Wands of finding harmony and balance. And there are paths out there, whether it's career, relationships, school, there is a path out there that is for you, that will allow you to create that balance. You know, this part of you wants you to be very intentional in where you put your energy. It wants you to have confidence in where you put your energy and the path that you're choosing to follow. It wants you to have this resolve, this conviction in your choices and your path, and recognize that you're not stuck. You know, these opportunities and possibilities are so much closer than you think they are. You just have to take a chance on yourself, and you have to take a step back and learn how to take care of yourself and know where to put your energy, like I keep saying, And part of that is putting it toward those very basic needs and putting it toward rest. Okay, sorry. I had to go to work and come back and finish filming, but the setup has changed a little because I am now down to only one candle. And you know what? We're just gonna roll with it and it's gonna be okay. But interestingly, actually, as I stopped filming the last piece of this, my CoStar app sent me, my little horoscope for the day, my little message, and it said, it's not gambling if you have to do the work. And I feel like that's a message for you guys as well. It may be a leap of faith, but it's not a gamble. It's not a gamble because it is work, but it's work on your terms. It's holding yourself accountable to you and not anyone else. And so I just wanted to share that with you as well, because I thought that was relevant to what we were just discussing. But I'm going to get some more tarot cards to see how we can integrate this message. How can pile 2 integrate this message from their shadow? Okay, we have the 6 of Cups. What else? We have the 7 of Wands. Oh. And we have the Page of Wands. Oh my gosh. Oh, that's really beautiful. Okay, so the 6 of Cups immediately makes me think of that regeneration card that we had at the start, because that talks about learning lessons from your past and integrating those lessons. So I think for at least some of you, this is definitely about reconnecting with your inner child and really doing some deep inner work and really reconnecting with the things that used to bring you joy, things that you may have left in the past because you were supposed to outgrow them, quote unquote, But I mean, especially with this Page of Wands here, it gives me so much inner child energy, just finding and following that enthusiasm and honestly keeping it simple. The 6 of Cups it can represent nostalgia, it can kind of represent idealizing the past, but at the same time, I think for you guys, there is an element of like wishing you could go back to a simpler time, but the fact is you can incorporate those elements that you're looking for into your life now. You can make things as simple as you want them to be. We talked a lot about working hard and being productive, and so I think it's really important to identify where you can kind of cut some things out. And going back to like the spoons theory, right? Where can I lose a few spoons? What am I willing to do? And it's just all about finding that balance that works best for you. And start simple. I think that's a big piece of advice, a big way that you can integrate this message from this part of you is just keeping it simple. Start with a morning routine, start with changing something in your morning routine or your nighttime routine. This is really about finding and creating and cultivating beauty in your everyday life through the simple things. So I think that is a very, very clear message coming through. Again, like I said, especially with the Page of Wands here, there's enthusiasm, there's new ideas, new inspiration, new motivation even. And, this is very optimistic energy as well. It kind of makes me think of that Ceres card too, the nurturing and mothering, because I think another way you can integrate this message is by offering yourself encouragement and offering yourself a positive outlook on the path that you're creating, the changes that you're going through. There's kind of some naivety energy here with the Page of Wands, the Six of Cups, even the Fool. Like, they're all young energies, they're all very beginner energies. And so just really having compassion for yourself through this journey as you learn to honor this part of yourself and make a life that works for you, and learn how to harness this energy and to say no and set boundaries and redefine success and accomplishment on your terms. And really, yeah, with the Seven of Wands here, there may be people around you that have something negative to say about these changes that you're making, that perhaps maybe you're foregoing your responsibilities or whatever, but it's not that you're ignoring responsibilities, it's just that you're finding a new way to approach them, both mentally and practically, in a way that honors your needs physically. It honors your mental and emotional capacity. But whatever these people have to say or believe about you, this card kind of gives me similar energy to the Chariot, where there's just this very strong conviction, very strong energy of determination and focus, and really standing on your values and beliefs and what you know is best for you. I mean, the way to really integrate this is to answer the call and jump into it. First of all, knowing full well that you will be successful and you will be secure and stable, but jump into it with enthusiasm, with joy, with a bigger perspective on yourself and the world around you. Like I said, maybe there's a little bit of introspective work that needs to happen first, but that will really help you connect with what you value and connect with true inspiration. You have the power and the ability to follow this inspiration and take this leap of faith with a plan, with focus, with determination. You can hold space for both. And like I said, you have the ability to do both, because you're not a child anymore. Though you may want to honor your inner child, you want to connect with them more, you want to help heal them a bit, but you are not a child. At least I don't think you are. I suppose you could be watching this, but I would be surprised. But you have the wisdom to be able to shift your perspective and define life on your own terms, and to just enjoy life on your own terms, truly. So, to integrate this message, just approach this change with faith, approach your desires with enthusiasm, and then, yeah, do the work. I mean, face it head on with determination and focus. But remember that it's not about perfection, and it's not about productivity, and it's not about reaching this unattainable goal. Guess what? You get to set your own goals. you get to set your own goals. And you get to celebrate whatever milestone you want. You get to start over whenever you want. You get to say no to things and make a plan and find a balance that works for you. So do the work and hold yourself accountable to doing that work, but hold yourself accountable with compassion and truly believe that you are worthy of success and abundance and joy no matter what path you choose. And I do think it is time to choose a new path. I think it's time to answer the call. But let's quickly get a bit of advice, a message from your higher self to this shadow part of you, this hidden part of you. What would Pile 2's higher self like to share? Oops. Okay, we have stillness, lack of movement. Yes, so this introspective period is very important. This time to go within and reflect and just cut out all the noise, the external noise telling you that you have to be a certain way or you have to work super duper extra hard just to earn your place in the world. And just be with yourself and really, really connect to what matters to you. What else would Pile 2's higher self like to share? We have growth, overcoming limitations. Yes. Oh, I love to see that. Yeah, let yourself grow and change and really just break free from these limitations. I think, integrating this message and sitting with it is going to lead you to some very profound growth, just personally on every level, spiritually especially, because like I said, I do think there's maybe a higher perspective coming through that you're learning to see the world through. But I think there's also a recognition, or you're being asked to recognize what this current phase of life has taught you. Because I think maybe this is something that it just doesn't suit you anymore. There's a lot of new energy here. There's a lot of new growth happening. And so I think you are being called to a different path. Again, maybe that's a career, maybe that's relationship. I do feel like it's career for a lot of you. But just, especially with the Six of Cups too, just take some of this introspection and take a look back and show some gratitude and honor the growth that you've had during this phase of your life, and then recognize, it's time to accept that this part is over and done with. It doesn't work for you anymore. These beliefs and worldviews or this environment has become restrictive, and you need room to grow. And that's okay. You're changing. And like we said at the beginning, I don't think you actually fear change. Or if you do, you're ready to move past that fear and honor this part of you that wants to transform and wants to find fulfillment and success on their own terms. But let's get one more piece of advice from pile 2's higher self, please. Oh, we got 2. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Okay, so we have hard work, commitment, and perseverance, and joy. Your inner child is here to play. Wow, first of all, that's a crazy combination. But I love how it does really overlap with what we were talking about, though, because this is work, you know, and we have to work to stay alive, unfortunately. You know, there's also inner work that needs to be done. But this is about committing to you. And it's about committing to the work that brings you joy, the work that allows you to be playful. And if it's not playfulness at work, it's an environment, or it is work that allows you to make time to play, to find joy, to be someone outside of just this environment or career path or relationship. But you know, with the 7 of Wands and the hard work too, there is a level of perseverance. There is a level of not just committing to yourself, but truly believing in yourself and truly believing in the work that you're doing and the path that you're on. But your higher self wants you to find joy and pleasure and fun in the process. You know, this is, like I said, it's going to be work regardless, and you should find a way to just enjoy it, enjoy the process. And that's not always easy. I think there's definitely, like I said, I think this goes pretty deep, pretty far back, so there could be a lot of emotions tied to this. It could be some hard internal work for a while, but I think once you start to integrate and once things actually start to shift mentally and in your physical reality, you'll be able to cultivate joy. You'll be able to find enjoyment in the process of making a life and a path that is fulfilling to you. It might take some time, but I think you're already undergoing the change. And if you're not, at least you're thinking about it, and that's a good first step. And there are so many new beginnings waiting for you. There are so many new opportunities and open doors that are waiting for you. It's just a matter of trusting yourself and trusting the universe and being willing to have that self-awareness, that loving discipline, and that compassion for who you are and what you want. But pile 2, I think that's all the messages that I have for you. I hope this was helpful. I hope something resonated. Thank you so much for letting me read for you. I do offer personal readings, personal coaching sessions as well. I'll link my Instagram and website in the description below. And I hope you take good care of yourself. There's nothing to fear within you. There's nothing to fear about hard work, especially when you get to choose what that hard work is. You get to choose how hard the work is. And so I hope you take care wherever and whenever you're watching this. Please give me a like, comment, subscribe if anything resonated for you. And I hope I see you in the next video. Bye. Hi Pile 3, this is going to be for you if you chose this Smoky Quartz Tower or the Antique Anatomy Tarot. but first we're just going to get a little introduction into this shadow part or hidden part of you that wants to come forward with a message. If this part does not resonate, it might not be your pile, but there could very well be multiple parts of you that have messages for you as you're watching this, so feel free to choose more than one. But let's see who wants to come forward with a message today. Okay, we have positioning. We have Leo, shine, the number 5. We have the Queen of Wands with generosity and tenacity. And then we have the child ghost. Your inner child is holding you back. So I definitely think this part of you could very well be your inner child, or at least very heavily connected to your inner child, especially with the 5th house Leo energy here as well. And I think this part of you will sometimes act out impulsively, will do anything for attention. And of course, these aren't necessarily bad things, but sometimes this part of you can make you act in ways that aren't actually in alignment with your values and your heart. I think this can be a very egocentric part of you as well. This part may take up space that isn't theirs, act in very prideful or boastful ways. I could like to create a little drama just for fun. But this energy is so interesting because I feel like with this Queen of Wands here, your higher self is coming through, as well as the shadow part of this. I'm seeing both aspects of this part, is basically what I'm saying. Of there is a shadow side to this, but the higher self side, the lighter side, is that you are a very heart-centered, a very generous, a very tenacious and aligned person. But when this part is in its shadow, in its unhealed state, it holds you back, and it doesn't necessarily abuse your power, but I think it can misuse it. I think perhaps it doesn't know how to wield this power. It doesn't know how to hold this passion and all of these big feelings. But if you learn to work with this part, you are able to inspire others, to light the way for others, and show people their own light within them, and truly and deeply align with your very strongly held beliefs. I don't know exactly why, but I'm hearing survival mode. I keep seeing this lion's face, and he looks fierce. He looks like he's ready to defend himself, to protect himself. So I think this part of you, at least when the shadow comes forward, could be a remnant of some sort of survival instinct, survival mode that you have had to be in the past. Perhaps for some of you, you had to be loud and boisterous and bold in order to get the attention that you wanted and needed, perhaps from an authority figure of some kind or a caregiver of some kind. You maybe had to be a little dramatic in order to be taken seriously, or to be heard in general, in order to feel self-assured, in order to feel confident, in order to have a backbone. I don't know if you can see that. It's just like literally a spine. But I feel like this part of you is kind of your backbone. It's your strength. but it's been wounded in a way that, again, it's holding you back, because it comes out when you feel passionately about something, and when you feel protective, and that survival instinct kicks in. And like I said, maybe it makes you act in ways that don't align with your values and your generous and charismatic spirit. But I see the light. I see so much light in this part of you. I mean, clearly with Leo and the Queen of Wands, and it's just about getting realigned with who you truly are, and this power within you, and knowing how to wield it in a way that honors your light but also honors the light in others. Yeah, this part has so much potential, and I think you also see both sides of this part a lot, and I think perhaps you do, or you are getting frustrated with it, because you want to be able to kind of tame it, to be more in control of it, and to align with the beliefs and values that you hold now, and the perspectives that you hold now, because I think you've grown a lot, and you want to be this Queen of Wands, and you are that Queen of Wands. It's just a matter of not letting the ego take over. And I'm almost getting like a child throwing a fit sort of vibes of, I want things done my way, or why is nobody paying attention to me? And I do think we'll get into the messages, but I do think this part is coming forward because you're ready to move on from that part, and to heal this wounded part of you, this inner child that really had to fight for attention, and fight to be heard, and fight to take up space. But you recognize the ways in which this part is now holding you back, and it's time to move on from that. It's time for you to say and to believe that there is room enough for everyone and all types of people in the spotlight, and that it's okay to share space, and it's okay to take up space, because you are entitled to that. Just, not at the expense of others, or at the expense of your integrity. It's time for you to really look within your heart and open your heart, and really find out what this inner child actually needs from you, because it is asking for your attention, and it often asks the attention of others. And so, ask it, what are you needing? What are you missing? But now we're gonna get into the tarot, and we're gonna see what the full message is from this part. Pile 3 Shadow. What message do you have for us? The Ace of Rods or Wands. Awesome. Yeah, more fire energy. This is a very enthusiastic part of you. It's a very inspired and inspiring part of you. And yeah, it's a light that just wants to be seen. This part is very expressive and very creative. perhaps a creative outlet would be beneficial for you, whether that's art or music or writing. We have the Hanged Man. Okay. So there's definitely a need to surrender to this part of you. You know, really honor that there is this fiery energy in you. There is this passion, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with needing attention and wanting our needs met. But sometimes we need to shift our perspective on how to get those needs met, and perhaps where we can find new inspiration and new ideas and ways to direct this energy. What else can you tell us? Oh. Oh. The Hermit. Okay. Yeah, there's definitely a message here about getting a little introspective, about shifting your perspective, about finding that inner light and finding the wisdom within it. Yeah, the Hermit is definitely some very deep soul searching. The Hanged Man, you know, it makes me think of that stillness, that retreat as well. All right, what else, please? What message would you like to tell pile 3? We have the Knight of Coins. So this is definitely going to be a process. It's going to require a lot of dedication and patience. And one more, please. Oh, well, you get 2 more. We got the 10 of Rods along with Temperance. Yeah, so lots of patience, lots of moderation, lots of learning to balance things, and really taking responsibility for your actions, your path, holding yourself accountable to doing this inner work, to realigning to your values. You're really being asked to kind of scale things back a little bit, to, like I said, look at things from a different perspective, take a moment to pause and look within and find new ways of expressing yourself, find new ways to be heard and seen, and to honor that inner child. And this part of you wants to reassure you that you will never lose your spark. You don't have to dim your light in order to move through the world differently, in order to heal this part. You don't have to make yourself small. I think you have a lot of fire and passion and creativity within you, and fire can be destructive, but it can also transmute things and be very regenerative. It's just a matter of being a little bit more practical, a little bit more methodical, intentional with how you spend your energy. It's like a controlled burn versus just a wildfire. And you know, this 10 of Rods is all about a completion of a cycle. I mean, we literally have the Ace and the 10, so this is This is a cycle that you're going through, you're nearing the end of, and like I said, this part of you wants to reassure you that that spark will always be there, that inner light will always be there, but you're learning what to do differently this next new chapter. You're learning to lay down some of the burdens that you have carried for so long, and like I said, perhaps get out of survival mode or learn how to take responsibility for the way your actions impact other people. You know, temperance is another card where it's about shifting your perspective. It's about finding ways to change and remove negative patterns and negative beliefs in order to really find that alignment and find that peace within yourself, and be able to use this fire in moderation, in a very controlled way, in a very intentional way. But there is a lot of healing with temperance. There's a lot of spiritual guidance. There's a lot of blessings that are waiting for you. For some of you, I'm hearing that some of this inner work revolves around bad habits or addictions, and there's a need to be really honest with yourself about what state you're in when this shadow part comes out, and why you feel the need to hide your light behind certain habits or behaviors or substances. Like I said, this is going to be a process. It's going to be a little bit slow. There is an energy of surrender here, of divine timing. The Knight of Coins is the slowest knight in the deck. He's very purposeful, but sometimes slow and steady wins the race, and sometimes slow and steady is what you need to balance out this very fiery energy. I mean, even temperance is Sagittarius energy, which is fire, but it's a mutable fire energy. So it's very flexible, it's very adaptable. And I think that's really what this part is coming forward to ask you to do. And that's the energy that it needs you to have in order to incorporate it in a healthy way and heal it. You know, the Hermit is Virgo energy, which I believe is also another mutable sign. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it is another one that is very adaptable, very skillful, and it's very detail oriented, a lot like the Knight of Coins. It really gets down to and is unafraid of the nitty gritty of our psyche and our soul and our truth. And I know especially the Hanged Man and the Hermit kind of indicate that this is a time for solitude. This part wants you to know that it's okay to ask for help, and actually, you are quite good at asking for help. You have found ways to, like I said, make yourself be seen and heard. And so, if you feel like you need help through this process, trust that you can ask for it, and you can do so in a balanced and measured way, in a very intentional way, in a very thoughtful way. And it's just going to take a moment of pause and introspection for you to say, I'm struggling, or I need this to be seen. I need help with this, and work through the emotions of feeling like you need help, and allowing those emotions to flow in a way that's healthy, and perhaps, like I said, a creative outlet. But once you work your way through those, you are able to ask for the assistance that you need in a clear and balanced way. And like I said, there's an energy of surrender with the Hanged Man. There is an energy of radical acceptance that maybe this is something you need help with, or at least this is something you would like to change or heal, or find a way to utilize this part differently. And so this part just wants to be accepted truly, and it wants to be looked at a little bit deeper, and it wants to be worked through. You know, it wants to lay down some of the survival tactics and the burdens that it's carried, and still not let the light go out, because like I said, there is a lot of light in this part as well, and it's just a matter of knowing where and how to shine that light. But let's get some insight on how you can integrate this message and integrate this part of you. Oh, we have the Star. Love that. Keep hope, keep faith, trust and believe that everything will work out in your highest good. And like I said, trust that your light will always shine, and your light will help others shine. What else, please? How can we integrate this part of pile 3 shadow? Okay, we have the Page of Coins. I heard practice makes perfect. So yeah, just approach this with curiosity. Approach this with dedication and diligence, and just be willing to learn. Stay open to learning about yourself and the way you interact with the world. You know, both of these together to make me think of this balance again as well. The Star is a very gentle energy. It's a very restful, kind of introspective energy as well. And this Page of Coins is a very studious, very serious and focused energy. Still very childlike and genuinely curious, but you know, it's finding that balance between rest and surrender, and allowing the universe to kind of take you on this journey, and being willing to co-create with the universe and do your part and do the work necessary. But let's get one more. Oh, and we have the King of Cups. Okay, yes. There's a lot of emotional intelligence that is required for this journey, and you will get there. Absolutely. Like I said, there's a lot of wisdom to be found within you, and within this part particularly. I think you're going to come out of this with a lot more emotional resilience and a lot more gentleness for yourself and others than I even think you realize that you are capable of. I love that we have this water energy here to kind of, again, balance out all this fire energy. And so you're really being asked, in order to integrate this message and this part of you in a healthy way, to just approach it with compassion and approach it with curiosity, like I said, and with faith that this part of you is not bad. It is not wrong. It's just a part that needs some healing. And so you're really being asked to be present with this part of you, to really be very cognizant and reflective of the emotions and energies that come up, particularly when you face obstacles or challenges or conflict. Take those moments to get a little introspective, to get a little curious, and to seek that balance, because you are moving to a place where you're a lot more emotionally stable. You will be able to direct this fiery energy in a way that is beneficial for you and others. And recognize that not everything deserves your fire. Not everything deserves that passion and that energy. Sometimes it needs a gentler approach. And sometimes it's about recognizing that these emotions that you're holding might not even be yours. And perhaps, they do belong to you, but they belong to your inner child, and that's what's really coming forward in this very fierce way. And you have to be the one to step in and kind of talk them down a little bit and recognize that let them know that you understand where their passion and perhaps their anger or just this intensity, you understand where it comes from, but there are healthier ways to channel that energy. And sometimes you have to pick your battles. And sometimes you just have to ride the ups and downs of life, I think this part of you really wants you to understand that ups and downs are just part of life. Obstacles, challenges, conflict, it happens. And sometimes, yeah, that brings out a certain intensity or passion in us. And like I said, there's nothing bad or wrong about that, but there needs to be a little bit more discernment with these emotions and initial reactions that come forward. And sometimes it's okay just to sit with those emotions and, like I said, just accept them. Just let them be, let them flow. See what they're really asking of you. Because, yeah, emotions arise because they have something to tell us, because we need something or want something. But I think, like I said, if you sit with these emotions and just kind of let them go through their process, you'll recognize that some of them aren't yours, and they're not your responsibility, and B, you'll recognize how to interact with them and express them in a more balanced way, in perhaps a more creative way, in a way that offers you new inspiration. Because if you get curious about this, if you honor these emotions and what they're trying to tell you, but approach them from a very discerning and emotionally intelligent place, there's a lot of inspiration that can be found within those feelings. This is part of your spiritual growth. This is part of you finding the success and fulfillment that you desire. But trust that you can find the light. Like I said, there's a lot of light in this part as well. And you don't have to dim your light. You don't have to make yourself smaller. So really, the way to integrate this message and this part of you is to, like I said, stay hopeful, stay optimistic, surrender a little bit to the process and what is, but stay curious, stay open to it, stay dedicated to it, because you're worth it. And this part could lead to a lot of abundance for you, and a lot of emotional fulfillment. And you know, it's going to require some compassion and some I heard gentle parenting. But this cycle is really, the tough cycle is closing out. And you're well on your way, because like I said, I think you're aware of this. You're aware of the changes that you want to make, that you perhaps need to make. And it's just a matter of accepting that you have to take the first step and taking it. But finally, we're gonna get a message from your higher self to this shadow side of you. Some advice from your higher self. Pile 3. What would pile 3's higher self like to tell this part of them? Ooh. Okay. We have gratitude. Yes, appreciate present blessings. I'm so serious, you guys. Have gratitude for this part of you. Like I said, there's nothing shameful or wrong about this part. It's just a matter of knowing where it comes from and how to integrate it and how to direct that energy and recognize what this part has given you thus far. You know, I keep going back to like the survival mode, but all of these things have served a purpose. And, you know, perhaps they were maladaptive in certain ways, but they still brought you to this point, and they still helped you get through tough times. You know, like I said, with this positioning card, that backbone, I think you have a very strong backbone. I think you're very, and I think this part of you helps strengthen that backbone and that ability to speak up for your needs and speak up for the needs of others. It just also has a shadow side, and we all do. All parts of us do. Yeah, recognize that this has served a very important purpose in who you are and who you're becoming. And express gratitude for the fact that you're ready to make this change. You're ready to move through the world differently, and be grateful for the wisdom that you already have within you. But we also have speak up. Use your voice to express yourself. So yeah, definitely there is maybe a need to ask for help, like I mentioned earlier. But like I said, this is, I see both the light and the shadow here of you're very good at speaking up when you need to be heard. And I don't think that's going to change. In fact, I think you're going to get a lot more confident in that, a lot stronger in that, because you'll be able to identify your needs more clearly. You'll be able to recognize how you can help yourself and when and where you need to ask for help. again, taking that very balanced and measured approach. There's a very clear purpose, a very clear motivation. Your light is very clear when you speak up. And, I think, like I said, it's just a matter of healing this part and knowing where to direct that energy. But let's get one more message from your higher self. Set intentions, plant the seeds, and watch them grow. Yeah, I definitely think this is your higher self reassuring you that this cycle is ending. You're already recognizing the changes that need to be made. You're already probably setting some of these intentions, even just by hearing this message. But this is a time of growth. And you're, like I said, you're learning to be very purposeful, very clear in your intentions. And, I mentioned spiritual growth as well. That's definitely something that's happening, that's on the horizon for you. And this is you, I think, aligning with your truth, aligning with your values and beliefs and these new perspectives, and really being honest about what needs to change within and around you. And it's not just about getting clear on what you want or how to get there, but it's getting clear on the why. Why do you want this? Why do you feel these emotions? Why do you feel called to follow this motivation and inspiration? The affirmation that is included in the guidebook with this set intentions card is energy flows where my intention goes. And I've also heard, like energy flows where my attention goes. And that to me feels very Knight of Pentacles. It feels very Temperance and even the Ace of Rods, And so your higher self wants to reassure you that those things are becoming clearer, that direction is becoming clearer, and there's a lot of new growth awaiting you. But yeah, these roots definitely make me think that this goes pretty deep, and so it's gonna take some deep work, but you're more than capable of it. And honestly, I think, especially with the star here, I think once you work through this and find the root cause of this shadow aspect of yourself, and you understand the wisdom it has to offer, I think your light's gonna shine even brighter. It's really just gonna help your light grow even more. And it's going to do so in a way that is authentic and aligned and emotionally mature, and in a way that is still passionate and full of joy and heart. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with needing attention. There's nothing wrong with asking to have our needs met. It's just a matter of how we go about it and the ways in which we direct and project that energy. You can absolutely be this Queen of Wands. You can absolutely have a big heart and be very generous and honor the light in others. But pile 3, I think that's all the messages that I have for you. I thank you so much for letting me read for you. I hope this was helpful. I hope something resonated with you. And I hope you'll leave me a like, a comment, or subscribe if you feel so inclined. I do offer personal readings and personal coaching sessions. If you would like to look into that, I'll link my website and Instagram in the description below. And I hope you take good care of yourself wherever and whenever you're watching this. And I hope I see you in the next video. Thank you so much. Bye. Hi, Pile 4. If you chose this quartz pyramid or the Wandering Moon Tarot, this is going to be your message from a piece of your shadow. And so this introductory energy check part is just this part of you introducing itself to us. So if this part doesn't resonate, this might not be your pile, but you could be asking about more than one part of yourself. Let's go ahead and see what wants to come forward. Okay, so we have balance. And we have solitude. We have the moon with the number 19 in perception. We have the Three of Swords with upheaval and release. And we have woman in the water. It's time to travel far below the surface. There is so much more than what meets the eye in this situation. Okay, yeah, this makes a lot of sense. Because initially when I was meditating on your energy, when I was shuffling your cards, your energy was a little bit elusive. It was very quiet. The word meek came to mind, and I feel like this part of you has a lot of depth, but there is also a lot of pain and emotion and certain perceptions that lead you to believe that that maybe you're better off alone, or that you're not worthy of care and love and attention. I got the sense that you prefer to focus on other people or let other people have the focus, and you prefer to kind of be a wallflower, to not burden anyone with your problems. I think this part of you finds it hard to create a balance between being alone and being a part of something, whether that's a community or a relationship. Because I do think there were painful past relationships. There's definitely some heartbreak or betrayal or upheaval that this part is still clinging to. This part of you is very all or nothing. It wants to find that balance, but it struggles with how to do that. A couple of times when I was shuffling, I don't remember which decks, there were a couple of them where there was like a big explosion of cards. And so I think when this part of you is really seen and really heard, or you get attention from someone or something that you've been desiring, there can be this explosion of emotions. And I think, like I said, this part of you is very all or nothing. I think there's a tendency to get very attached very quickly, and that can often lead to something like this Three of Swords. It can often kind of distort your perception of another person or relationships in general, because then when the other person or other people don't reciprocate, or they express weariness at this intense expression of emotions and attachment, then you retreat back into solitude. And then you're like, well, then I was right. This part of me was right, where I'm not worthy of being seen and heard or cared for. And so it's this very, very black and white thinking of believing that you can't really show your true self. This part is very conflicted because, like I said, I think there is a lot of depth to this part. I think this part of you both wants to be seen and doesn't want to be seen. And that push and pull energy can lead to extremes on either side, where it's either complete solitude and despair, or it's intense attachment. Almost the word love bombing is coming to mind, and that's not something that I think you do intentionally, but it is something that is coming through. And it's just, like I said, that this part of you wants to explore those depths and does have these very intense emotions and attachments. And there's nothing wrong with feeling love or feeling anything deeply and strongly. It's just a matter of finding that balance and recognizing or understanding the potential consequences of expressing those intense emotions, because you've learned, not everyone is going to be receptive to that. And so, we'll get into why this part is here and what messages it has for you, but I do think it's showing up so you can find this balance, so that you can be a little bit more discerning with yourself and with others. The moon is Cancer energy. I also get Pisces energy from this, but Cancer is a very nurturing sign. It wants to nurture people, it wants to care for people, and it wants to be taken care of. And again, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, but I think this part of you has kind of learned to make itself smaller and more quiet. Like I said, there's kind of this meek energy to it, because you've learned the hard way that not everybody responds well to that intensity, or even just to you expressing emotions in general. And sometimes, that's other people, they don't do well with expressing emotions, period. But there is an intensity, there is an extreme quality to this part of you. And I think with this woman in the water, there's so much more below the surface. It's really asking to be explored more and really healed. I think there are definitely some wounds that are still lingering, that still present themselves, especially in relationships, and that can be romantic or platonic, but I think this part is coming forward to ask you to examine where this all or nothing thinking comes from. But it does create problems for you when you go to these extremes, when you decide to isolate yourself and believe that you're unworthy, or, you know, the opposite effect of throwing yourself into a relationship and kind of losing yourself in it. You know, I think, like I said, this part really wants to strike a balance, and it's trying, but there's definitely a need to explore it more. There's clearly more going on underneath this part with this woman in the water and the moon in particular, and even, you know, water imagery in the balance card. It definitely makes me think that this could be connected to either your relationship with your mother or relationship with a maternal figure or an important feminine figure in your life. This could go back to childhood, could be attached to a past life. There's definitely at least one important relationship that you've experienced that ended very painfully and that you're still very much clinging to. Yeah, whatever it was, it really changed your perception of love and care and your self-worth and relationships in general. I think this part of you also could go through these kind of extremes where you're very hyper independent and you kind of want to prove something where you don't need anybody to take care of you, but this part of you desperately wants to be taken care of. It wants to be seen, even though it is equally afraid to be seen. The other side of that is really you losing yourself in relationships and becoming very deeply attached very quickly. And I think that can lead to some more disappointments for this part. Not always, but I think it has. And so it's hard to find that balance, like I said, but it is trying. This part really wants to understand how to be in a healthy relationship and still be who you are. And, you know, that's not to say you have to lose this intensity, this emotional devotion, because I think that's a really beautiful quality to have. You're a very loyal person. You're a very devoted and caring and nurturing person. But this part needs to learn who will match that energy and what relationships, what people, what situations are safe to fully express yourself in, and who's going to reciprocate that energy and give you the love that you deserve. All right, well, let's get into why this part is showing up and what message they have for you. Pile 4 shadow. Why is this part showing up? What message do you have for pile 4? I'm not taking reversals. Ace of Wands. Let's keep going before I get into that. Oh, the 10 of Stars. Okay. Ooh, okay. I'm hearing for some of you that there is a new spark. Some of you could have recently met a new person, or you're going to meet a new person, or you recently entered into a new relationship, or you've been seeing somebody and it's not quite, defined yet, but the spark is still there, and this part of you wants to give you that happy ending. It wants you to explore these wounds so you can get all the happiness and abundance that you deserve. That's so beautiful. Okay, let's get a few more. What else does Pile 4 Shadow have to say? Ah, the Page of Moons. Okay, yeah, there definitely could be a new connection, or incoming communication. But yeah, oh gosh, this part of you just wants to open its heart so bad, so badly, and really create a beautiful, stable relationship. And like I said, I think this part of you is afraid of being seen, but it also desperately wants to be seen. And, I see this Ace of Wands as well as your inner spark, as your light. And so it's really encouraging you to let that shine. Oh, the Five of Swords. Okay. And one more, please, for Pile 4. Ooh, interesting. The Five of Swords and the Five of Wands. Okay. So 555 or 55 could be a significant number for you as you're kind of learning about this part. It could be a synchronicity. But, fives are a number of change. And this part is really asking for your change. Okay, so this message is actually pretty straightforward. Like I said, this Ace of Wands is this new spark that you're feeling, whether that's just a desire to change this perspective and perception of yourself and relationships, or it is a new spark within a relationship. But I think especially with this Page of Moons here, that's cups in traditional tarot, but I heard the phrase, this page is a student of the heart. And so you're kind of being asked to just be willing to learn about yourself and other people, and recognize that, first of all, every relationship is going to be different. But I think you're really being asked to examine how you give love and how you receive love. And again, that goes for both how you give and receive love to yourself and to others. And so, there definitely is this message of really truly learning to love yourself and recognize that you are worthy of this stability and security and happiness. But it's not like that bullshit, like, oh, you have to learn to love yourself before others can love you and before you're worthy of this happy ending. No, that's BS. that's BS. But really, it's coming through as more of an exploration of, what do you actually need and want in relationships, and how do you display your love, and how do you, like I said, receive love? Because I think especially with these two fives in particular, there is that intensity coming through again. And so, both of these are energies of conflict and competition, perhaps. And so recognizing that, first of all, you're not on a specific time limit. This part wants to reassure you that this 10 of stars is guaranteed, and you will find that person, and you will find the love that you deserve. Perhaps it's, like I said, within a community rather than just a individual person, but you're not on a time crunch. You have time, and love is not a competition. But I think especially with the Five of Swords, this is the card that is like my it comes through as pick your battles wisely. And so I think that's something you're really being asked to focus on, is how do you engage in conflict right now as you are, and then how can you engage in conflict in a way that is more balanced and healthy and comes from a place of love, and again, love for yourself and love for this other person or other people. The Five of Wands in particular asks who you're surrounding yourself with. Are these people, is this person someone that shares your values and passions and again loves you the way that you need to be loved, and is willing to engage in compromise and healthy conflict in a way that honors both of your emotional needs? Because you are a deeply empathetic person. Like I said, especially with this moon card too, you care so deeply about people, and you want so deeply to be loved and to love people freely and intensely and deeply, and that's so beautiful. But this 10 of stars also talks about generational healing. It's a legacy card. I do think there is a need to go a little deeper and really heal some of these wounds, and look at the examples of relationships that you've been given throughout your life. Look at your own past relationships and what they've taught you, and really start to integrate those lessons. What did you learn about conflict and competition growing up? Did you have to fight to be seen and heard and loved? And I do think these are partially that internal conflict that I was talking about earlier, of wanting so desperately to be seen and loved, but also being very fearful of what that could mean. Because, sorry babe, but healthy relationships have conflict. Even the best, most loving, most picturesque relationships have their problems, and they argue, and that's normal, and that's okay, and that doesn't mean that you are not worthy of this love and the security. And it doesn't mean, I want you to really hear me when I say this, it doesn't mean that that person or those people are suddenly going to take that love away or withhold that love. And if that has ever happened to you in any context, my heart goes out to you. Ooh, whoa, that made me emotional. You are worthy of love no matter what. No matter what. And it breaks my heart thinking that someone as kind and empathetic and beautiful as you has ever experienced that sort of pain and that sort of loss. And I'm so sorry if that's ever been your experience. You know, just because somebody can't deal with their own feelings, their own internal struggles, does not mean that they have any right to treat you so poorly. And you know, maybe this part of you learned that and internalized that, both in the way where, you know, you feel like you're unworthy of love whenever you hurt someone or get into a conflict with somebody, but that also was maybe internalized in the way that, like I said earlier, you isolate yourself and you do kind of pull back on that love. And I don't believe that you would ever take your love away in the same way that has been done to you. But I do think you hide away sometimes when things get tough, and that's okay, but that doesn't mean that you don't love this person or these people, and that doesn't mean that they don't love you. You know, true love conquers all, which is such a cliche to say. But truly, like I said, even the best couples have conflict, and they come out even stronger. And understanding how to have healthy conflict and keep an open heart and keep that passion and that love is a very important part of building a relationship and having a worthwhile relationship and a meaningful one. You know, overall your message is keep your passion, keep that fire within you, and learn to open your heart and let love in, and learn what love truly means to you. Learn what you're looking for in a relationship with yourself and with others, and learn to pick your battles, you know. Learn to be discerning about what people you give that love to, because truthfully, we can be empathetic, sympathetic, we can care about people on a very general human to human level, but not everybody deserves your depth, and not everybody can have this 10 of stars with you. Not everybody is going to find that security and stability with you, but the right people, the right person will. They absolutely will. And this part of you wants to reassure you of that. Maybe start with yourself. Start with giving yourself the love. Start with how you talk to yourself when you make a mistake or you feel like you failed, and how do you have conflict with yourself as well. And so really diving deep into those things and understanding your perception and where you come from when it comes to those things, and redefining them, and knowing that an open heart and a willingness to give love freely is a gift, but it is a gift that needs to be protected. You and your heart are worthy of protection, and sometimes you have to be the protector, but that doesn't mean making yourself smaller. That doesn't mean hiding yourself away. It just means being a little bit more discerning and getting a little bit more in touch with your intuition about who's really meant for you and who can really give you the love that you deserve. But now let's see how you can integrate this message, how you can integrate this part of you and its lesson Ah, the Fool. Amazing. Have faith in yourself, hun. I mean, take that leap of faith. It's okay to let yourself be seen. It is. It's okay to have an open heart. You know, it doesn't mean that there won't be conflict. It doesn't mean that there won't be challenges, but the universe will catch you. You will land safely or learn to fly, one of the two. But let's see what else. How else can pile 4 integrate this message? For those of you that have met a new person or have recently started a relationship, you know, I think the way you can integrate this message is truly by allowing yourself to jump in. And again, not in a way that comes across as desperate or, you know, comes across as love bombing or, you know, any of that kind of unbridled intensity. This is a very purposeful jump. This is a very intentional leap of faith. It's you knowing that things are new and unknown, but it's time to put yourself back out there and find the right person and those right people for you, and trust that they're out there. You know, the Fool is the very first card. It's number 0. So this is a very new beginning for you. And it's going to take some time to learn and grow and, like I said, be a student of the heart and learn to love yourself in the way that you deserve and receive love from others in the way that you deserve. But it is out there. It is happening for you. Yeah, exactly. Ace of Stars, you know, that's opportunities, that's open doors, that is new seeds being planted. And one more, please. Pile 4s. Oh, we got 2 more. Okay. We have the 3 of Moons and the Knight of Stars, or Pentacles. Oh, I love this. I mean, this Ace of Stars is really, it's really about the potential for building something stable. I mean, you have the Ace and the 10 of Stars here. Like, this is a complete journey for you. And it's, like I said, it's gonna take some time. It's gonna take some learning, some personal growth, but the abundance, the stability, the security within yourself and within relationships is happening for you, and you just have to plant the seeds and nurture them. You are a very nurturing person, and so it's just a matter of being willing to see your worth. I mean, this is, especially these two together, you know, this is you taking a chance on yourself, truly, and learning to love yourself and give yourself room to grow and find security and an abundance of love within yourself. And then, you know, eventually with others, you know, especially with this 3 of Moons and the Knight of Stars. You know, the 3 of Moons is all about friendship, community. It's about recognizing the love that already surrounds you and brings you joy, the meaningful relationships that you've already cultivated in your life, and really investing in those and allowing them to show you what love looks like and what love feels like. Invest in those relationships, invest in yourself, you know? And with this Knight of Stars, be patient with yourself. Like I said, this is a new beginning for you in a lot of ways. Be patient with yourself, be gentle with yourself, but be devoted, be loyal to yourself, and understanding your worth and recognizing what relationships are worth the work, what relationships are worth being loyal to, and what relationships are worth protecting, and ultimately, you know, protecting the relationship with yourself. You are very determined to succeed, to build a fulfilling and stable and secure life, to build a secure and stable relationship with a person or multiple people, and like I said, with yourself as well. The Knight of Stars is very intentional, very purposeful, very methodical and driven. And so in order to integrate this message, integrate this part of you, you have to be very committed to yourself and committed to recognizing your self-worth and recognizing the abundance of love that you already give and receive, and recognizing when to pursue certain relationships or experiences, and doing so with intention, expressing your emotions and your love and your open heart with a purpose, and in a way that's very practical, in a way that's very grounded. You know, like I said, I think sometimes you get swept up in your emotions and the intensity of your emotions and attachments. So start practicing how to ground yourself when those intense emotions arise, and how to kind of pluck out what these emotions want to tell you and what they're trying to teach you, and recognizing what it's safe to take a chance on, and recognizing what is a worthwhile investment, recognizing, you know, what you want to invest your time and energy and love into. It's going to take a lot of faith in yourself, but practice makes perfect, you know, and you just have to practice that discernment and practice having perhaps conflict in safe relationships, in relationships that you already know are stable, that you know love will never leave you. Ground yourself in what you know love really looks like and feels like. Ground yourself in the process of learning to love yourself and build your self-worth, and open your heart again in a way that is balanced and secure within yourself. But let's get some messages from your higher self to this shadow part of you. What would pile 4's higher self like to tell them? Oh my gosh. Y'all, I cannot make this up. Happy endings. So this is definitely the ending of a tough cycle for you. This is reassurance that your happy ending is guaranteed. and, whatever that may look like for you. And that may change in the future. Your idea of this person that you love, I think is becoming less idealized, less romanticized, and more grounded. But it is happening for you. And oh, that just makes me want to cry. That's so beautiful. Yeah, your higher self really wants to reassure you that you're worthy of love, and the love you desire and deserve is out there for you. And we already know it is, because you have people in your life that love you. You do. Okay. Change. Yes, a new season of life. Yeah, endings, new beginnings. Things are really shifting for you. I think internally to start, but externally as well, when things kind of start progressing. But allow things to change, allow your perceptions and perspectives to change, allow yourself to heal and grow. This reminds me of the Ace of Stars, where it just starts out as a seed and then it grows into a beautiful tree, and it goes through its own life cycles. And that's just life. That's just what happens to all of us. It happens in nature, and I think your higher self wants you to know that it's okay to change, and it's okay for your needs and wants to change as well. And maybe that's something that you're realizing or being asked to realize. And it's okay to honor who you are now or who you're becoming, and recognize that this mindset, this shadow part of you, isn't serving you anymore. It's kind of holding you back. And so change is on the horizon, and I think you're ready for it. And that doesn't mean it's not scary. That doesn't mean it doesn't take a leap of faith, but it's time. It's here. And it's going to lead to your happy ending. It's going to lead to the fulfillment and stability that you desire. Let's get one more, please, for pile 4 from their higher self. Oh. A new beginning. Wow. Okay. Yes. Have courage to open a new door. You've got this snake here that's shedding its skin. There is a new beginning awaiting you. A new beginning that is offering you happy endings, that is offering you positive change. A rebirth is happening for you. And trust that whatever is coming into your life now is meant to help you grow and change, and it is meant to align you with this path to your happy ending. You're leaving this old mindset, these old habits, these old attachments. You're leaving it all behind, and if you're not yet, you will be soon. And your higher self really wants to reassure you of that, to just have the courage to open a new door. Fool here, take a leap of faith. We have 2 aces as well. 111 could be another significant number or synchronicity on your journey as well. You're learning to find your way out of these intense extremes. You're learning how to kind of combat that black and white, all or nothing thinking, and really embrace just the seasons of life, the natural kind of ups and downs that are just part of your journey, and recognize that maybe not everything needs your emotional response, and recognize that even if that's true, it doesn't mean you have to close off your heart. It doesn't mean that you have to isolate yourself from the world. It's time to go deeper and explore your heart and redefine what love means to you, and the way you give yourself love, and the way you receive love from others and give love to others. And I think once you release this part of yourself or integrate this part of yourself, there's going to be so much joy. You are going to feel so relieved. You are going to feel so much more self-assured. And you're going to be feeling a lot more confident in who you are and what you want, and your ability to control your emotions and not let them control you. And a lot more confident in your ability to have healthy conflict and discern who is meant for you, and discern who is able and willing to give you the love that you deserve. And you'll really be able to release this lingering heartache, this lingering wound and mindset that is keeping you stuck. But pile 4, I think that's all the messages I have for you. I think this was the longest reading of all of them. We'll see. But yeah, your messages were so clear. Wow. And I wish you all the best on this new beginning. Your higher self and I want to reassure you that this happy ending is coming. And I think you'll find that within yourself and with others as well. You'll find that stability and security and abundance of love. I hope this resonated with you. I hope this was helpful in some way. I hope you'll give me a like, a comment, or subscribe if you feel so inclined. But if you want to dive even deeper, I feel like this was pretty in-depth, but if you want to get a little bit more personalized, I do offer personal readings, personal coaching sessions as well. I will link my Instagram and website in the description below, so you can check that out. And yeah, I'm really just wishing you all the best. I'm sending you lots and lots and lots of love. And I hope you'll give yourself some love too. But please take good care of yourself whenever and wherever you're watching this. And I hope I see you in the next video. Bye!